Well, hello, folks. I'm L.A. Little, founder of Neoclassical Technical Analysis, and I want to welcome you to this show where we're doing reviews of stocks that mentors have chosen. We do this once a week. Usually, we try to post it. It's a kind of a live setting, so a little bit raw, but it's from our mentors who have mastered the model, the Neoclassical model. And what we do is we look at these stocks that they have found through their searches and have decided are probably the best trades they want to pursue, and we look at them and we decide if they are or not and how we would go about it. So that's what this show is. Enjoy the show, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, so the point is that you've got to break out here on a cap-weighted basis. This is probably the best sector right now, right, from what Matt's telling us. But you get a breakout daily, retest, regen immediately. If you go over here, you actually got a breakout, it looks like on the weekly, but also an immediate retest, regen. And the monthly is really not showing anything yet. But, you know, the problem I see with anyone betting against this thing still is, I mean, almost anywhere I look, this thing still looks bullish. I mean, there was a failure here, but it's on more volume. Right now, this was July 3rd, so this is a half a day. So if you double the volumes, that's 36. Today it does 28. So on that perspective, right, if you do that, you kind of had a failure today. Doesn't really show on the chart, you know, the way you'd want it to, but that's because it was half a day. So here you actually have something that doesn't look good, right? Because this would have been up to here somewhere. So it would have actually been less volume. But if I go over and look at, you know, like the, you know, technology's driving this thing, you know, technology's breaking out. I don't have the derivative data in today, but that's a breakout over this swing point high. And on the weekly, so far, it's a breakout over the highs. And that's on the composite. If you look at the GDX, it's even stronger because you got all the big cap technology running again today, along with the stocks. It's just hard to find anything, and I pointed out yesterday or actually this morning in the notes, this is the one that's been the struggle, right? And this one still doesn't want to break back down. You know, it's still holding a retest regen here and holding this one as well. So, you know, anywhere I look, this market looks like he still wants to try and work to the top side. You know, can anything happen on a short-term basis? Sure. I mean, today was, you know, potential something to happen, but again, the market just finds a way to grind through it. So, you know, at this point, it's hard for me to get bearish. I mean, you can get a trade in, you know, like, you know, today was a decent trade if you wanted to trade the upside. You know, and the expectations, picking up something yesterday. Shorting the dollar today was a decent trade. Going long gold was a decent trade. I mean, I haven't talked about gold in a while, but I don't know if you guys are watching this, but this guy, you know, the GLD itself is just coming back up, but the stocks, these move a lot more, right? They have a higher wave. They're up there about to test the highs again. So I don't know. There's a lot of good trades all the time. You know, one I was going to bring up, and so we'll just kind of dive into these guys. EWZ, I'll start with this one, and then I'll work through all the ones that you guys have. EWZ just broke out. This is the Brazil. Now, I'm not a big fan of what they're doing down there. And maybe I'm reading too much Trump, because when I start saying big fan, that sounds like Trump, doesn't it? But EWZ, right, breaks out. It's broken out here last week. I mean, I just added more to my positions. It's getting ready to break out on the monthly. So, you know, and this is one of the bricks, but, you know, the brick stocks, but or ETFs, but they, I don't know, man. It's hard to find anything as bad unless you're looking at like China or maybe South Korea. If you're looking at economics, it looks like hell everywhere, right? All the PMIs are coming down. All, you know what I mean? All that kind of stuff. But huge in China. Yeah. Making fun of our president, right? So anyway, let's just walk through some of these stocks. since we have them on the list here, I'm just going to take them A through Z. First one you got here that you guys offered up is ABM. So ABM looks like it's in the consumer discretionary. And it just turned bullish, not too extended, sideways on the long term. And yeah, so this has more room it can run, right? So you have, you know, the target really on a long-term basis is up here now. And so you kind of got this little area right up here that kind of looks like where it's trying to get to. And so what is that? It's about another $4 almost, just about. If I go back to the weekly's just got ABCDs going up. So, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with this. This all looks good. So you got ABCDs projection up here somewhere. Again, it kind of matches what you just saw over on the monthly, and here it's got this. Now this is wide price spread, high volume. So this will kind of be the key spot, and I expect it will try to test it. You've got ABCDs here as well, right, that point back up to where we were talking about elsewhere. So all indications are, you know, this one wants to head higher. This is where it will do the test. This is where it will either decide to go higher now or consolidate more and eventually go higher. But this is the sort of stock that eventually probably goes higher unless the whole market or that sector kind of goes down the tubes. So ABM looks like, you know, I don't know that it's ready right now because you got a little resistance up above it, but it's certainly heading that direction. AKAM. Now these are the kinds I actually like these stocks. I've talked about this before. When you get these kind of bars, this was probably an earnings bar. You see a high volume, wide press bar. It's way up here, so that's a top. That's a magnet bar. And then usually what happens when this takes place, and I've talked about this elsewhere, is you get a pullback, right? Because this, essentially this says it opened up here, closed down here. What does that tell you? Well, the buyers were unwilling to keep buying at higher and higher price points. Okay, if they're unwilling to buy at higher and higher price points, what are they going to do? Well, they're probably going to sell. And that's what they do, right? They sell this thing, and you end up with this consolidation down here somewhere. But eventually, you know, after the consolidation, this thing usually sees the gravitation back up, and that's what you're starting to see now. Here's the breakout. It's over this swing point high. I actually went over two of them, went over this one and that one. So it gets the breakout, consolidates, just tight little consolidation, and now is trying to work its way up. It's going to work its way back up to the top probably. May take it a while, but that's where it's trying to go. That's, what is that top, 86, 82? It's about 5%, right? If I look over here, this was the test, that big wide price spread bar we're just looking at on daily, that was the test. Didn't have the volume, right? So it was a failed test, which also says you should try to pull back, and it did. Now you're going to come up and test again. If you ate up some of the supply that was there last time, you come back the next time, you'll eat up more of it, if not all of it. And so, you know, this again looks like it wants to work that way. And let's look at the monthly. Monthly, same thing. Monthly didn't have the volume on the test. Exact same, you know, case that we just talked about. Actually, yeah, it looks like it did get over this one. Got over this one on this bar. So you get a breakout, big spike, consolidate, you know, coming back up to test again. It goes higher, you know, same story. You just, you know, 5%, do you want to play it? I don't know. But, I mean, to me, it looks like it works its way higher. And it's probably going to be the case with almost everything we're looking at, because we're looking at a market, and I didn't do the market. But if we're looking at a market, you know, the market wants to go higher. You just tested 3,000. This thing can consolidate for a while. You've actually got something today that's kind of a negative, and that is that you tested this top and didn't close over it, right? So you went over it, back over it. But like I was talking about, you had more volume if you double that volume on the third. And so that probably test again. But if we look at the others, right, NASDAQ, NDX, these guys are all broken out. Russell hasn't broken down, so that all looks like it goes higher. EWZ I just did. Let me switch to GPN. So what is global payments? Oh, I was going to do ARKW. Let me go back to that one. So it's testing in a swing point high. We got 98.4, 108. So you test with more volume. Got another swing point high here. And you got a breakdown bar top. So 55.88, which is this bar. It looks like 55.88. Yeah, this one's okay. It's just, you just got a lot of baggage, right? I mean, when I'm looking at them, the last two we just looked at, you're at the point where there's just one thing to get over, right? One of them had on one on the daily, but AKM, for example, you're just going to the top now. Here you got to get over this. Then you also got to get over that one, and then eventually you got to try to get over these. And so there's kind of a lot of, there's going to be natural sellers, right, queued up in these places. If this gets over, you'll see the red bar will end up here. And so you'll see resistance up there where the sellers reside. But you can see that there's work to do, right? And so this will be a labored approach, which is fine. It's just that you'll see this kind of stuff going on, right? These little ABCDs firing and going back and forth as it tries to work its way up. So this one I'm not crazy about. What is this? What industry is this? WebX. It looks like it's a web ETF. So
technology of some sort.
Yeah, it looks like some sort of web stocks. So still looks fine. Yeah, it still looks fine, but it just looks like a labored approach to the top side. GPM or N, which is the global payments. So this is a excuse me here, I'm looking for my cube. It's financial probably. No, it's a discretionary. 890. So I guess these guys process payments. So this one's been very bullish. This has been like, this is like 99.9. It's like it can't go any farther. Yeah, this one's extended. So this has been going on for a long time. Yeah. Well, we've talked about this before. Notice all the way up here. Do you see an H anywhere? There's none, right? It's been so strong for so long that you have an entire monthly chart without a swing point high. That's about the most bullish definition you can get. I can never print a high because I just keep going up. The bad thing about it is you get very extended, but you know what? The trend just keeps going until it doesn't, and it's your friend until it isn't. So I don't see any reason to try to do anything but just ride the train here. Broke out over two swing point highs, two separate times. Again, you can't get swing point highs anywhere else. So, this is sort of trade that if you make a trade in something like this, you just find a way to wedge yourself into it and just go with it. There's another one I just saw that I've been watching, JEF. I'll pull this one up. It looks very, well, it doesn't look similar, but it's got the same sort of thing where you just have to wedge into it. So here's, just a takeoff in volume. This is financial group, and they just had this explosion to the upside. Now, when I look at this chart here, this is why we look at 3 time frames, right? I mean, this looks tremendous, right? Big space, big spikes, huge volume. I know y'all like that. And if you look at it on the weekly, though, it doesn't look so huge, does it? Right? I mean, all that spike up here is nothing big compared to this stuff over here. So even though it's got a nice spike up, this thing can consolidate. But if you're going to trade something like this, especially if you're trying to trade it on a short-term time frame, you just got to find a way to get into it. And then you just try to ride it. Now, the problem with any of those strategies is just take this one. Where do you put a stop? Right? Retest regen. In other words, what does a retest regen tell you? Well, if it trades back into here and it takes more than 6 bars, should trade the top third. So in other words, if it comes back to here, it's still fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Matter of fact, you want to buy it. So if you buy it up here, you got to be willing to buy it down here. That makes it hard to do. That's 10%. Or it's, I guess in this case, yeah, it's almost 10%. So that's, the hard thing is that you make a trade like that, what do? Well, you got to either put a very tight stop up here, which increases your risk of just losing money, or you don't take very much here because you know you're going to take more down here. You know what I mean? You got to put a plan around it, right? Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. So anyway, that's true with the one we just looked at with GPN. If you wedge into it, you just got to be willing to buy it deeper if it comes back. Here's another principal financial group. Matt probably gave me this one since it's a financial, and that's what he's looking at right now. So your swing point high here, you already tested once. The retest region's there. And
Yeah, I believe that's Edwards. Yeah.
Oh, it's Edwards. Okay. Yeah, this yeah, it started back in to test it again today. Let's see what the rest of it looks like. Let's look at the weekly. Also breakout on the weekly. And the monthly. Yeah, it's just another one of those that's got a lot of baggage, right? So I assume this is like small financials. I'm not familiar with them, but I think it is. They have big volume here, wide price spread on the monthly. That's 61.12, which is just above here, which is right there, this high. And yeah, this one, what you really want to see, because I know we talk about, breakouts on multiple time frames, and that's what you got on this one. What you really want to see is you want to see it just extend, though. You don't want to see it come back. And this one came back, and it's coming back because there's still a lot of sellers, right? Because there's all this baggage up above. And so even though this probably works higher, it probably takes time, and it doesn't behave like your normal, your normal breakout on multiple time frames. And so that reaches up to about there, and then it'll probably come back even if it gets there. So this is going to be another one of those slogs, right, where it tries to work its way higher. Again, not that interesting to me. I'd rather put my money in something that doesn't have all the baggage. It's already cleared it all. Like your global payments, find a way into something like that if you have to. But there's a lot of other trades that are not, like that EWZ I just showed, right? They don't have all the baggage. They got one last hurdle, right? It just makes it a lot simpler when you're trying to trade it. You're not going to get all that thrashing. SDY. So this is a dividend spider.
The S&P High Yield Dividend Aristocrats Index.
So this did the same thing. So it breaks out. Now this one's a little bit more interesting because it actually didn't have all the baggage, right? It's all gone. It's in at all-time highs. Breaks it, and then pulls back immediately. Given that the market's bullish, I mean, certainly you can trade it. The fact that it pulled back immediately says it should trade a bottom third, so I try to trade it in here somewhere. That corresponds with this nice big wide price red bar up, and so you don't have to give it much room on a stop. So it's certainly playable, and I would trade it on the longer term time frame, like the weekly, if I were trading it. Yeah, and so it actually has two things going. This is interesting. These are harder, right? Because here, I mean, think about what happens. I just showed you that you'd want to trade it. What was that price point over here? You'd want to trade it at, that width is 101.92 to 100. So it's roughly, $1.80 divided by 3 is, what is that, 60? So it'd be 120 down, the 170 or so, and now go back to the daily. 170 puts you right here. So what you really want to see, the ideal trade is it dips down here and closes right back up there and holds this, doesn't give it up. So you get your test that you want, you buy into it where you want, this 100 area, 107 at 170, and then it ends up being strong, closes up in there, and you don't give this. Because if you fail here, it's not, it's not the end of the world or anything. It just says you're going to consolidate probably, so it's going to take time. So, good, yeah, works higher probably. Am I going to get it where I want it on the weekly? Maybe not. Maybe I'd take it a little bit higher. Or you get this case I just talked about where it dips down, gets you, and it goes right back up. But the reward risk is great. The probability of success over time is pretty high. So, still a good trade. TMK's Torchmark. Let's see, they're 8.6, 7.6.
Yeah, that's a financial that I'm looking at.
So financial. So this one's gotten over the breakdown bar. It's got one more over here that it's dealing with right now. It's not quite done, but it's almost over. That top is 91.40. Let's go back to the weekly, which is 91.40. Just popped over 3 swing point highs, 4. Huh. $91.28. Tested back, so that's a wide. But these are 6 bars. The top here, 89, so roughly somewhere around 89, probably worst case. And if I do it here, 89 is right there. Yeah, this is not a bad trade either.
Yeah.
You got a wide price spread here if it gets over it. It's already gotten over it, so it could conceivably trade back to the bottom third because it's already back into a test. But it looks like 89 is about as deep, maybe 88.5 is about as deep as it's going to go.
If you go to the weekly and look at that anchor bar on the far left, right there.
Yeah. So this weekly, the anchor bar here you're talking about.
I'm talking about.
Well, the swing point high, you mean, right?
The top of that blue anchor is swing point high.
Okay.
The top, the top right there. Start getting into that.
Yeah, so you're thinking about trying to buy somewhere in here?
Correct.
Right up in here.
Yeah.
So that price point is, 89.62. Yeah, if you get that price, it's not a bad price. That's where you have your volume here too, right?
And that's where you come back to the retest region on the day.
Well, you're doing that, plus you're coming into 2 bars of volume.
Yeah.
Right, so this little sweet area here is kind of hard to get. That'd be a nice spot, actually.
That's the high probability trade.
Yeah, it's a good looking trade. You got a little baggage, right? You got to get over this guy, which it's already done, but you're finding sellers here. This is the last stand of the seller, so to speak, right? Where they, whoever still wants to sell is selling it. These guys have been in it for a year and a half. They just still want to get their money back. But there wasn't very many of them, right? It wasn't that much that traded up there. So, yeah. I don't know. The thing is you look at all this, XLF we already looked at. You look at all these stocks. When you get this way on the markets where everything just goes up, right? It doesn't matter what you look at. Almost everything goes up. That's what happens. And so everything looks good. The hardest thing to do is go find some that seem to have more potential and have high probabilities with them. And that's the hard part right now. Is like what can I go get? Like we've looked at this one that Jen has been playing this pays, right? She had a nice setup here, although I wish she'd bring her stop up. She had a nice setup here, you know, with this thing. And I don't know what day she went into this, but, you know, it broke over a swing point high. I mean, this is a high mover. Now, this doesn't have much history, so it's kind of hard to deal with. But it's just, you know, the reason I'm bringing this up is the percentage gain can be great. And so if you can find something that can give you a lot of push and has high probability associated with it, right, in a very bullish market, right, that's a decent trade as long as this market remains this way. But as soon as this changes, right, as soon as the bull turns into a bear or a sideways thing, then these things, you know, typically are the ones that get hit the hardest. And so you want to focus on these when everything's the best, right? You go focus on these things that are crazy. Another one is here's a good one that's going on right now. Let me pull this one up. Is Beyond, BYND. This is the fake meat stock that makes no sense, you know, in terms of the price range. I mean, look at these trades here. They look like almost no move, right? These are 4 and 5% trades. I mean, this is 3.6. Yesterday was 0.75. Before that was 2.6. But I mean, you go back to any of these, are 6%, 5%. I wouldn't trade this one right now, you know, but I mean, just all I'm talking about is you just get some of these things that have big, high percentage moves per day in a bull market. That's where you can make the best returns, and you just have to get a very high probability percentage trade and take your shot at it. And that's where I would be focused. XL, you know, if you know, the portfolio needs to be a little bit of both, right? You need stuff that's kind of slow and, you know, works its way up, and then you want some of these crazy things, right? So you want a little mix of both, right? You want a few of these, and you want a bunch of those. And almost everything we looked at today was kind of more of this stuff, other than the ones I brought up. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for the recording.